Hey y'all, welcome to another 50 Doodles video. In this tutorial, I'm sharing all the holiday doodles that you're going to need this year, so let's get started. Welcome back, my name is Shayda Campbell, and we're starting with my favorite doodles, which are those little botanicals and plants and flowers. And the first is Evergreen. So you're going to do these little tiny stems and then just add these really thin oval-shaped leaves along the length of each. And you can see there, you can kind of keep going with it and extending it, making it as large or as small as you need to. Next up, holly. Start with the berries, do a cluster of 3 or 4, and maybe put a little dot on the circles. That really makes them look like berries. Then you're going to do a line, and then this kind of scalloped edged leaf goes around that line. So the line becomes your center mark, and you can add a little bit of line shading to darken the leaves, showing the difference between what is leaf and what is berry. How about a simple poinsettia? We will do a cluster of little dots or circles for the center. Then you're going to do 5 petals that come to a point. Keep them small because now you're going to do 4 or 5 more petals kind of going around in a circle surrounding the first ones. Put a few lines, and then all you have to do is add some leaves. They're the same shape as the petals. Just do a bit of line shading so you can really see what is leaf and what is flower. And that's your simple Christmas poinsettia all done. Need a little extra guidance with these doodles? There is a worksheet covering 10 of them, and it's available on Patreon. It's only $2 to join or $22 for the year, and you get tons of bonus content. Check it out at patreon.com/Shayda Campbell. And if you're curious about today's supplies, be sure to watch until the end of this video. How about we make up a little winter plant next? I'm going to start with 2 stems and just add some tiny little pointed leaves and clusters of little circles for berries. So it just looks like a wintry berry branch. You can darken the leaves with a little line if you like. How about white pine? We'll start with a little stem, a little line, and then you're going to do this burst of thin little lines at the end of each stem. You can do a cluster of 2 or 3. And we'll do a little winter berry. I like to do a U shape with a secondary U, put a line in the center, and each line ends in a little circle. Put a couple leaves, and you've got this cute berry cluster with a Scandinavian folk art feel. Next up, boxwood. I love making wreaths out of this plant at this time of year. It's a lot like that first one. You're going to do a ton of little stems that all join together and just these tiny little oval-shaped leaves, and you can keep adding more and more branches if you like. I want to try doing another holly. We'll make this one a little more detailed. So do those clusters of 4 or 5 berries and connect them with a stem, a little line. Then we'll do the leaves just like we did on that first one. We're just going to add more, and we'll do 1 or 2 leaves where each cluster of berries is. And then we'll just keep adding, lines for stems and other leaves, one on the right, one on the left, and you can always put another cluster of berries. And this one really comes to life when you do a little bit of shading. So maybe add some line shading on one side of each leaf, and then you can darken up those berries a little bit as well, and you've got this pretty detailed little sprig of holly. We'll draw an acorn next. I always start with a little semicircle for the top, and you can kind of give it a little nubbin right in the center. Color that in using some messy lines or scribbles, and then we're just going to do a long half oval on the bottom, and you can do some simple sketchy lines to indicate that it is rounded. Sticking with plants, let's draw mistletoe. I'm going to start with a simple bow, and then we'll add the plant. So do the stem right through the center of the bow, and then to draw mistletoe, I draw clusters of berries as well as single berries, so tiny little circles, and then I start putting these pointed oval-shaped leaves surrounding all the berries. That looks good as it is, but I'm going to add a bit of line shading to the leaves so that the white berries really stand out and you get that pretty mistletoe look. That's it for some of my very favorite winter and holiday plants. Let's move on to pretty snowflakes. Okay, so snowflakes, yeah, they need to be a little bit symmetrical, but don't get hung up on that. They don't need to be perfect. For this one, start with an X with one line through it. Then you're going to almost draw a flower right in the center. And then each line gets two little V shapes on it. If it gets really uneven and it looks wonky, go around and just add some snow, some little dots, and I promise you it will start to look better. Let's try another one. For this snowflake, we're going to start with that line again and then do the X through it. A lot of my snowflakes begin like that. And then we're going to add a little oval on the end of each line plus that V shape, but this time I'm kind of thickening the V. From there, we drop down and do a small V on each, and again, we surround everything with snow. My third snowflake is just the beginning of those other snowflakes, the line with the X through it, but I've thickened each line. And we'll do one more small one, start with the line with the X through it. And then all you need to do is put a little V on each line. It can really be that simple. Do those snow dots and you're good to go. Let's draw a snowflake that begins with a star. So do the triangle with the upside down triangle, and then you're gonna put a line, 3 lines through each triangle shape, and then just do some more little lines to kind of fill it all in and decorate. Don't get hung up on perfection with that one either. And that's it for my snowflakes. You can doodle some really tiny ones to kind of surround a snowflake cluster, and that would look so good in a bullet journal or sketchbook. Moving right on, our next doodle is Frosty the Snowman, and I start with his hat. Do a curving line and kind of thicken it up a bit, then do a large U shape on top, add that stripe for the ribbon on his top hat, color it in a dark black, then drop down and do 2 curving lines for his head, 2 more curving lines a bit larger for the body, and a few lumps of snow at his base. I'm going to add 2 or 3 coal buttons, just little black scribbles, do his tiny little arms, and you can thicken those sticks up a bit. Finally, a carrot nose and 2 little eyes. You can do some lines on the carrot, maybe some lumps in the snow. He's that simple. For a candy cane, you're going to draw the candy cane shape and then thicken it up on the underside. Add some little angled lines for stripes, and then I like to thicken each stripe to give the look of them being colored red. Okay, this one I'm starting in pencil because this is a snow globe. So I'm working out the snow globe shape with a little rectangle, thin rectangle for the base. And we're gonna actually do 2. So then I'll do a very round snow globe with that more traditional base and maybe a little plaque on it. Once I've done those in pencil, we'll come back in with our fine liner, and I'm going to do that rectangle base, maybe add some line shading to show that it's a bit darker. We'll put the highlights on the glass first because we'll avoid them when we do our little inner drawing. I'm going to lay down a lumpy snow base, and then 2 or 3 houses looks really cute, and you can just add the windows, a little bit of snow falling, and I think that looks so pretty. Moving on, we'll trace over that circle and the base with its little plaque. Keep those lines curving on the plaque, and you can write Noel or Joy. Do that lumpy snow base, and then you could draw houses in this one as well. I'm going to do a little mountain range with snow peaks and color those mountains in with just a light line shading. An orange slice is kind of seasonal. I love drawing oranges. Just do the circle and do kind of a broken circular border within it. And then tiny little lines like the spokes on a wheel look like the segments of the orange. Okay, here's a really fun way to draw a Christmas tree. Start with a line, then you're going to drop down and do a tiny rectangular base. Then do this very shallow curving line and place a whole bunch of little oval-shaped leaves along the length. Go up, make the next one, but just slightly smaller, and do 3 of those, getting smaller every time. Place 2 leaves at the top and a little star right at the top of that line. Add a little bit of line shading on the base to make it look like wood, and you're all done. Here's another Christmas tree. Start with a triangle, place a line through the center, and then just do these connecting angled lines all the way down. Simple Christmas tree, perfect for a planner or bougeot. Let's try that one again. Triangle to begin, put the line through the center, add some angled lines that meet, and then this time we're going to put a whole bunch of little circles to make it look like it's decorated. Here's another variation. Start with like a voluptuous triangle that kind of fans out. Put the line through the center, and you're doing that all in pencil because that's your guide. And then you're doing these rows of tiny, closely placed little lines. If you run out of room, just drop the base a little lower. We're going to put a line right through the center, kind of thicken up the bottom, and add a star on top. One last Christmas tree. This is my Charlie Brown tree. The line with the rectangular base, and then you're just adding these slightly angled little branches going all the way up. Make them a little shorter as they reach the top. And there's your little cutie Christmas tree. How about a Christmas candle? I start with the wick and then draw this flame shape surrounding it. Do that drooping, dripping wax. Make a small rectangle below, and that could be it, or you could add some of that holly or evergreen that we practiced and put it across the base. A stack of presents makes for a cute, easy doodle. We'll draw a square and then drop down, maybe do a thin rectangle with a square below, so you got that lidded look. And we can add a little bow or poof, and definitely draw some stripes or polka dots or snowflakes or something on there. And how about a gift tag? Start with an upside down V shape, and then draw a rectangle around it. Add a hole with a little twine, and you can put a message on there if you like. Next, I have some tree ornaments. The first is an angel. Start with a circle and then a simple body shape, 2 wings, a little string at the top, and 2 eyes. So easy. We'll do a bell, do kind of a curving upside down U, put a ribbon on there, and just like with the candle, we can put a little holly sprig right at the top, maybe color that ribbon in. Okay, I want to do an ornament. I start with the little cap on the top, and then you can do some round shapes, maybe draw a design, and definitely add the hook at the top. That'll make it look like an ornament for sure. My final ornament is a star. So you can just start in pencil. That's how I find it easiest to draw a star, and add that hook on the top and maybe do a border on it. Let's draw a wreath together. Start in pencil and just mark out a circle and then maybe a little bow right at the top. Grab your fine liner, go over the bow, maybe thickening it a bit at the top. And then here's how we do the wreath. We're just going to draw all these little clusters of leaves and squiggles using the pencil circle as our guide. So follow the circle all the way around, trying to thicken the entire area. Make sure it's fairly equal. Just step back, take a look. Add some more leaves, some more squiggles, and we'll finish it with a bit of line shading on the bow. How about a Christmas letter, like a letter to Santa or a card? Start with a square and put a triangle on top. Do this in pencil and then an X through the bottom. And then when you go over it in pen, you're going to draw that rectangle with the X, then do a little letter peeking out, and then you just add the rest of what's left of that triangle behind it. Now I'm going to color the entire letter or card in, so just do it all black, and then I'll take a gel pen and I'll write a short message like Noel or Joy. Let's do some winter gear next. I'm starting with a curving line for a string and drawing 2 little mittens. We'll also sketch out a toque, that's a Canadian hat, while we're working in pencil. But let me just go over everything in pen so you can see what I'm doing. The mittens, 2 mitt shapes, maybe a little frill or border on the edge, and then that nice little string that joins them. For the hat, you're going to start with this bumpy base. Make it a little lumpy, put some lines on there, do an upside down U shape with a pom-pom, and you can always add a border, some little hearts to make it look like it is a fancy Christmas toque. I also drew a really silly skate, kind of this fat foot shape with some laces and a little blade at the bottom. That's my skate. For our scarf, we'll begin in pencil again, doing 2 lines that cross over, and then we're going to thicken those lines up and put a fringe at the base. Now going over it in fine liner, allow it to get a little wider towards the bottom and a little thinner where it meets and loops around. Add the little lines at the base for the fringe, and you can always put some stripes or polka dots or something like that. Next are some of my favorites, a little tea kettle, Start with a handle and place a semicircle lid with a little nubbin for the top. Then you're going to drop down and make that tiny kettle shape. And then you can leave it at that, or you could put a little border on there, maybe some hearts or dots or something. And I want to doodle a stocking together. What's more Christmassy than that? So start in pencil for this one and kind of work out the shape of this long drooping sock. Keep it on a bit of an angle with a cuff at the top, maybe a little patch at the foot and the toe, and then a loop. And you can put some presents or candy canes or just bauble shapes peeking out and over the cuff. Make sure you like the shape, get it right, and then we're going to go over everything with our fine liner. Use nice smooth lines to trace over the angled sock with its loop at the top, the cuff. Make sure some of the presents or candy canes kind of peek out from over that cuff, and don't forget about the toe and the heel, and you can color those sections in. Use a little cross hatching, like lines that are at odd angles to one another to darken it slightly. You can do a bit of that on the cuff as well. And then I recommend putting a pattern or a name or something on there. I'm going to use that really simple snowflake that I showed you, and maybe a few little dots as well to look like it's patterned. And I think I'm going to color that cuff in as well, just like the toe and the heel. For my gingerbread man, I also like to start in pencil. Draw a stick man, so a line with a head and then the arms and legs, and then you kind of thicken up the entire stick man. That's my best tip for getting like a fairly symmetrical gingerbread man or lady. And then we'll go over that in fine liner once we're happy with the shape. Kind of keep him nice and chubby, all the lines are smooth, and we'll do some icing, dots and buttons, and I like to just add a little broken border within to show that he is iced. Okay, what's next? How about a string of Christmas lights? We'll do this smooth looping line, and then we just place these little light bulb shapes all along it. You can space them out more. Put some tiny lines there to show that they're glowing and bright, and maybe darken up the base of each bulb a little bit. Before we totally run out of room, I'm going to sketch a cozy winter drink. So I start with that cup shape, maybe put some marshmallows in the top, a little cinnamon stick. So you're just going to do this rectangle that kind of has rounded corners at a handle. Trace over those marshmallows, which are just rounded squares. Again, add a little dotting on the mug to make it look like pottery. And then for the cinnamon stick, a rectangle with a line through the center. Let's jump up and add a tiny pine cone. How about an oval? Maybe give it a stem and just do these little rows of scalloped lines. Simple pine cone. How about an elf? Start with a round head, 2 eyes and a mouth, and then the pointy elf ears are going to sit in line with those eyes. Add his Santa hat, and then we'll go over everything in fine liner. So do the cuff on the hat, give it this swooping curve and a tiny little fluffy pom-pom. Go over his ears and his eyes and his mouth, and then maybe color in that hat. Darken it up so it really looks red against the white fluffy cuff. Next up, I've got a really cute, easy one, and that is Jingle Bells. Start with a circle that's like a little bit squared. Draw an X across the top, and the ends of the X end in these dark circles, but not all of them because you can't actually see across the top of the circle. You can do a cluster of 2 or 3, and they look so cute. How about a candy? Little peppermint candy, little circle with a spiral, and then the wrapper on the ends. And then for our final doodle, we're gonna give him a little moon to Frosty because we are totally out of room. I'm gonna place some more snow, maybe draw some berries or evergreen sprigs wherever I need one. But that's it for my 50 winter and holiday doodles. I hope I covered everything that you wanted to see. I had so much fun doing this. Stick around if you wanna hear my supplies list. So today I was working in this Canson mixed media sketch pad. It has a really nice toothy yet still fairly smooth paper that I think is just great for working in pen. And speaking of pen, I was using my favorite fine liners, which are the Mulatto black liners, and I did the entire drawing with the 0.7mm nib. I also used my favorite white gel pen, the Signo from Uniball, and of course I had my pencil and eraser. Check the supply links in the description if you want to shop my supplies on Amazon. And friends, please hit that subscribe button before you go and help me reach 1 million by Christmas. It means so much when you just subscribe. That's not all. You can head over to Patreon to get the worksheet for 10 of these doodles. If you're thinking about joining Patreon, now's a great time to do it. It's $2 a month or $22 for the year. Patreon.com/Shayda Campbell.